All right, this is 5 on 20 News with Joel Foster coming to you live from our studio in downtown Tucson. It's Thursday, September 7th. Let's talk local headlines, shall we? The immigration advocacy groups Lupe and Luce held a protest for the second straight day in response to the decision to end DACA. This time, this protest was held at Tucson City Hall. The group first gathered at De Anza Park at Stone and Speedway, where they marched to City Hall down 4th Ave with a few hundred people. Once at City Hall, the group set up a staging area and led chants in English and Spanish. Several speakers, such as Luce Representative Jessica Rodriguez, Edward Cott, and Zaire Olivier, took place soon after. A few high school students also took the stage, including a member of Cholla High School's student council who had walked out of class the day before. She said that the walkout occurred because students felt that TOSD aren't supporting them. She called for Tucson schools to become sanctuaries for undocumented immigrants who may be targeted by immigration authorities if DACA is rescinded. On Tuesday, Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced that the administration would end the DACA program, leaving a 6-month delay to give Congress time to craft legislation dealing with the issue. The Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program, was instituted in 2012 by President Obama in an executive action. It gives immigrants who cross the border illegally as children a temporary stay. Obama hoped that in the meantime, Congress would pass a comprehensive immigration bill, but none has come up so far. If Congress fails to act, then DACA would end in March. In the meantime, active DACA recipients are encouraged to renew their status, although no new applications will be processed. For now, it's in Congress's hands, and that's frightening since this is the same Congress that can't agree on what to order for lunch, never mind pass controversial legislation. Here's some footage from the protest yesterday. Nope.
So we synchronize like a real community, y'all. How do we want it? Now! How do we want justice? Now! What do we want? Justice! What do we want it? Now! What do we want? Justice! What do we want it? Now! What do we want it? Now! Justice! Now! What do we want? Justice! When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Power! 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 Power!
All right, yeah, so great turnout. You might have noticed Billy Kovacs was in the crowd there. He's representing District 2, running against Martha McSally, so keep that in mind. All right, moving on. Business leaders in Arizona are claiming that the decision to end the DACA program will likely spell disaster for the state's economy. James Garcia, a spokesman for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, said that removing all of the state's DACA recipients would be the equivalent of getting rid of the entire population of Kingman, located in northwest Arizona. He said that immigrants play a large role in the economy and own 30% of the 123,000 Hispanic-owned businesses in the U.S. There are currently about 28,000 people under DACA protections in Arizona who will soon not be able to work legally if the program ends. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce was just one of the many signatories of a letter to Congress that asked Congress to pass the DREAM Act, which would give DACA recipients a chance to attain citizenship. About 91% of DACA recipients are employed, while 97% are employed or in school, according to a study by the Center for American Progress. Another study by the Cato Institute found that on average, DACA recipients earn about $34,000 annually. The report says that the immediate deportation of DACA recipients would cost the federal government $60 billion, and the resulting economic losses would total $280 billion. Wow. The CEO of the Arizona Bankers Association, Paul Hickman, said that DACA recipients contribute widely to the economy and called their impact impressive. He said that pushing them underground is a bad idea, but that's what would happen if their DACA status were to be rescinded. Arizona Representative Trent Franks responded that DACA recipients wouldn't be pushed underground because that would compete with the state's mining industry. All right, a fighter jet crash in Safford, Arizona resulted in the death of an Iraqi student pilot who was performing a training mission. The F-16 jet, which flew out of Tucson, crashed around 3 p.m. yesterday. No cause was given yet for the crash, but the U.S. Air Force has begun an investigation into the matter. This was the second crash involving an F-16 Fighting Falcon flying from Tucson, and the third F-16 crash in Arizona since mid-2015. Arizona Congressman Andy Biggs was one of only 3 Republicans who voted against a bill on Wednesday that provided relief for Hurricane Harvey victims. Biggs opposed the bill because it was attached to a separate bill involving government funding, which Biggs was against. He said that the READ Act, which was attached to $7.9 billion in Harvey funding, would make the government bigger and tie foreign assistance to education programs in some countries. In a statement, Biggs said that, quote, "I firmly disagree with attaching disaster relief to a piece of legislation that needlessly extends taxpayer dollars to support international education." This isn't the first time that Biggs has disagreed with his Republican colleagues, as he also voted against the Republican health care bill in May because he claimed he didn't have time to read it. He had previously promised his constituents that he would not vote in support of anything without reading it first. Biggs says that he'll have more time to read legislation once he gets done with the Twilight series. Team Edward. An Arizona drug maker lied and bypassed normal processes to push opioids on patients who didn't need them, according to a new report released by Senator Claire McCaskill. The report is the first piece of information related to the investigation into Insys Therapeutics, which is based in Chandler. The report states that in one case, a representative of Insys misled a pharmacy benefit manager into approving a payment for Subsys, a highly addictive fentanyl patch meant to manage end-of-life cancer care. In order to get a drug such as Subsys approved by an insurer, it must be first ordered by a pharmacy benefit manager. In released audio, a Subsys employee asked the pharmacy benefit manager to order Subsys for a patient named Sarah Fuller. Fuller was given the drug and died 14 months later at the age of 32 due to complications from the drug. The company is also accused of downplaying the addictive quality of its products made with fentanyl, which is 50 times stronger than heroin and 10 times stronger than morphine. Insys has settled lawsuits in other states over similar charges of defrauding insurers. Insys came to recognition when it was revealed that the company spent $250,000 opposing Prop 205, which would have legalized marijuana in Arizona. Shortly following the defeat of Prop 205, it was revealed that Insys was developing a strain of synthetic marijuana that they planned to introduce to the market, but have since abandoned. Must not have been addictive enough, I guess. Now, in national and international news. Kentucky could become the only state without a clinic that performs abortions if a court finds that the last remaining clinic violated state rules. The trial that began yesterday will determine whether the EMW Women's Surgical Center in Louisville failed to meet state health regulations requiring clinics that provide abortions to have transfer agreements with local hospitals and ambulance service in case of an emergency. In March, Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin tried to shut down the clinic when he notified the center that its agreement had been deemed insufficient. Lawyers for the EMW Center filed a lawsuit against the state, claiming that the complaint came, quote, out of the blue. Their lawyer claims that they are safe due to the striking down of a 2016 law, a similar law in Texas that required surgical-grade facilities at clinics that provide abortions. In that case, the judge found that the rules were, in effect, a ban on abortion, which would be unconstitutional as a result of Roe v. Wade. These types of rules are known as trap laws, which make requirements so strict that it's nearly impossible to keep operating. Similar trap laws were enacted in Mississippi, leaving the state with only one remaining clinic in Jackson. Don Cox, the lawyer representing EMW, says that Bevin is creating arbitrary rules that are rooted more in ideology than in public health research. But the Bevin administration plans to argue that the rules are necessary to ensure the cleanliness and safety of facilities that perform abortions. Planned Parenthood, who no longer performs abortions in Kentucky, also joined the lawsuit. They argue that Bevin is deliberately trying to block women's access to abortion by threatening to block funding to the University of Louisville hospital system if they cooperate with abortion providers. Bevin tried to pass another law through that criminalized doctors from uttering the word abortion, making dead baby jokes, and would make it illegal to watch season 8 of Grey's Anatomy. See if that goes through. All right, Facebook's chief security officer revealed that the company sold hundreds of political ads to fake accounts based in Russia. Alex Stamos made the revelations in a blog post yesterday where he said 470 fake accounts spent $100,000 to buy about 3,000 ads. Stamos said that the accounts had since been suspended since the discovery was made. The ads were purchased sometime between June of 2015 until May of this year and tended to promote issues instead of specific candidates. Stamos said that most of the ads pushed issues such as gun control, immigration, and other divisive social issues. He says that all of the accounts originated from a Russian-based company called the Internet Research Company, which is known as a troll farm to promote Russian propaganda. The company has refused requests for a statement, but there have been frequent ads on Facebook calling Alex Stamos a, quote, cuck globalist who wants to take your gun away. All right, the U.S. military will send an additional 3,500 troops to Afghanistan, according to a report by Reuters, citing administrative officials. The additional troops are part of the Trump administration's South Asia strategy announced in a speech last month by the president. This would raise the total troop levels in Afghanistan to 14,500, who are there to help the Afghan military battle against the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. Pentagon officials said they would not comment on the increase until Defense Secretary James Mattis made the official announcement. Last month, the Pentagon admitted that there were actually 11,000 troops in the country rather than the 8,400 that was previously reported. Trump's decision to ratchet up the war in Afghanistan has caused even some of his most extreme supporters to criticize the president.
Oh, yes.
Trump ran on an isolationist campaign, which included not getting the U.S. involved in any more foreign wars. Conservative media such as Breitbart have criticized Trump for committing troops to a war that many say cannot be won. They failed to learn that you never tell Trump that he can't win something. Never. 15 states and the District of Columbia filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration in response to the decision to end the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or DACA program. The suit was announced by Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson, who called the decision a, quote, dark time for our country. States include New York, Massachusetts, Washington, Connecticut, Delaware, D.C., Hawaii, Illinois, Iowa, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Virginia, and Arizona. Just kidding on that last one. Of course we're not involved. Yesterday, dozens of so-called dreamers surrounded the attorneys general in New York and Seattle as they made the announcement of the suit. California's Attorney General Xavier Becerra said that he will move forward on his own lawsuit because 1 in 4 DACA recipients live in California, and the state will suffer the greatest harm if the program is undone. His lawsuit calls the rescinding of DACA a, quote, unconstitutional culmination of his commitments to punish people with Mexican roots. About 70% of people with DACA protections come from Mexico, with about 90% coming from Latin America. Becerra says that his lawsuit will be similar to the suits launched by the 15 states. This marks the 97th lawsuit against the Trump administration, 4 short of the record set by Millard Fillmore, who was sued hundreds of times by angry Catholics claiming Fillmore engaged in riffraff, hoopla, and other shenanigans. All right, this was 5 on 20 News with Joel Foster. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook accounts for all the latest Creative Tucson content. Feel free to bother us at info@creativetucson.org. Thanks for watching. Stay creative, Tucson. See you tomorrow.